Now, on item 13, there has been quite a lot of discussion over the last 24 hours. Councillor Darby and I were a little bit surprised when this sort of landed, and I do acknowledge that the email went out last night so that people actually knew what we were talking about. I'm going to actually move that we refer this to the Infrastructure Committee. We've got the ability to do that. The legal advice, though, was that this needed to come to a committee of the whole first. We can then refer it to Infrastructure, and it will then land on the lap of the governing body. It's fine to do that. It isn't a major and critical series of decisions that need to be made in here. We've signed off the draft strategy. It went out for consultation through the LTP process. Feedback was received. Most of it has been included in here. Finance is still doing the fine-tuning now that we've landed the LTP, and adjustments will be made. So this is not a big renegotiation of priorities in here. We've actually done it. This is to get the audit trail correct. It's gone to a committee of the whole. People would like a little bit more time to read it. Infrastructure can sign it off and refer it to governing body, and we can have another crack. Councillor Cashmore.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Very briefly, to Roger or to Dean, the tail end of that report, there was a whole lot of graphs. There was going to be more accurate data pros to that, and I know that Jacques Victor is working on updating the council growth projections, and that sort of work. They'll all be incorporated in that. And when is it expected that work will be done?
Well, Madam Chair, could I ask David Hockey and Dawn Mackay, who are the authors of the draft infrastructure strategy, just to comment on that question?
Certainly, thank you. Thank you. Through the Chair. The figures that we're going to use, the projections are going to be the ones that we use for the LTP, so it's the medium growth projections. The updates refer to all the outcomes of the Budget Committee meeting on the 7th of May. So the figures are the budgets that are being realigned, and that information, those graphs, will be updated with that information.
I just have some concerns, Madam Chair, about the accuracy of some of the population projection data, and it's been well evidenced in a couple of areas. And some of that I know has been worked on to make it more accurate. So I will make the assumption, and we'll keep checking up that work that Jacques Victor is doing gets transferred into this report, because I think it will be very informative.
Well, you know, we are dependent on Statistics New Zealand in terms of the forward population projections, and they have been updated following the 2013 census. But I think the important thing is we are, for infrastructure provision, using the medium growth projection rather than the high growth projection, and the logic of that has been because there's investment involved in infrastructure provision. Clearly you don't want to be over investing relative to what might happen.
Understand that.
Okay, so people are comfortable with where we're heading. Councillor Wood.
Well, I've got a question, and Councillor Cooper would probably ask this if she's here. The Northwestern Busway, it's in the plan in that document at 2025 plus.
It's the point I made before.
Nonsense. So can you advise, I mean, I thought that was being kind of worked on to see if it could be expedited. So where did you get the figure from?
Through the Chair, those were the projects that we received from Transport, from the Transport groups, Auckland Transport and Transport Strategy Group. I can go back and check that and make sure that it's aligned correctly with the up-to-date information that we get out of the long-term plan.
So that's the point that's being made, which is why there was a lot of confusion, and staff were working until after 7 last night, and then we started again at 7 this morning trying to actually land how on earth we manage this sensibly, because we only made the decisions at the end of the week, councillors, on what we were going to fund, and we've only just made the decision on the transport levy, and some of the decisions and the move forward, move backwards placements of transport projects in this still need to be decided. So this was the slight disagreement between legal and finance to say this is either, going to be finalised on the finance side of things, but legally we need to have a sensible audit trail that shows that it is being considered along the way. So it's a bit suboptimal, but it's where we're at. Everyone working as hard as they can to do the right thing.
Madam Chair,
Councillor
there is a
Webster.
report coming to Finance and Performance next week from the Chief Executive of Auckland Transport and the Chief Executive of Council on the use of the levy and the transport program, in which one is going to push very hard to make sure that that Northwest Busway gets priority over other things because it's needed.
I think we just need to settle ourselves a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I'll say.
We just need to understand the cascade of decision-making here. So, because I'm kind of with Councillor Webster, so we've settled the budget on Friday. We are required by government to do this infrastructure strategy. You know, we're required to plan 10 years out. It'd be great if the government did too, but we're required to do this. We are also, you know, only 4 years old and we're not sort of grey-mouthed, so it's a fairly big and chunky piece of work.
Sure is.
The critical thing with this will not be the Bible of everything that we're doing. It's showing what we kind of need to do, best guesstimate at what we're doing, but then we will do exactly as Councillor Webster says. We then look at our fine-tuned transport strategy and the other pieces of infrastructure that are being worked through. So we cannot be taking this as the Bible of what's going to happen. And Councillor Cashmore's on the button. We are, as the unitary plan unfolds, as greater information around growth patterns evolve, then this will have to be, it's an iterative process. It's kind of a start. I've got Councillor Fletcher and Councillor Casey.
Madam Chair, I just would be happy to move the recommendations. My grievance in terms of as a principle, it is very difficult when we receive important papers on the eve. I accept your explanation on that, but just as a practice, maybe officers can take on board our frustration when this type of situation occurs. And it's my view that we perhaps should delay any debate, discussion on this until we actually have it at the Infrastructure Committee.
Which is why I've moved this.
Thank you, and I'm seconding it then for you, Madam
Happy to be of service.
And councillors, I know that this is frustrating. The reality is we are operating to guideline, legal dates actually set by statute. So, you know, it's not that we're being difficult or challenging you unnecessary, but we have to fulfil our obligations to provide this piece of reporting into the LTP. Councillor Casey.
Just to add the word draft into the recommendation. Is it still a draft when it goes to infrastructure?
Yes, it's true. Okay.
Indeed.
Yes, we'll do it.
It's done. Okay. We are right on 12:30 when I said we'd break for lunch, so I'm going to put that. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried, and we'll break for half an hour and we'll be back here at 1. Thank you all.